Well, now this is interesting. Mary Barra, the General Motors CEO, is standing by and about to speak before the cameras after Michigan lawmakers very clearly and forcefully said if GM is going to expand and produce new products or come out with a bigger push for something like the Chevy Blazer, they better do it first in the U.S., where there are areas and there are plants that have capacity that's empty at the moment, before they go to Mexican plants. Sander Levin of Michigan also saying, we are watching General Motors' moves from now on. They really want, as they said, to have a good relationship with GM. And as we wait at this moment for Mary Barra, I do want to bring in Bob Nardelli, the former CEO of Chrysler. What did you make of that?
Well, listen, I don't think Mary had a choice in her decision relative to closing some of these plants and the platforms. They're just, the consumer dictates what cars have to be built, Liz. Now, the request to retool and reposition back into Ohio and Michigan and so forth is a very legitimate request, particularly at some of the basis points that were made there, relative to wages, relative to environment, relative to tariffs.
Sure.
But I don't think Mary had a choice. I think Ford is going to have an issue, and I think Chrysler Fiat will have a similar issue. Consumers aren't buying sedans.
Let me just say that we are awaiting Mary Barra. She's about to come out there. Obviously, one of the General Motors representatives are saying there was a good meeting. We're also still with John Wise of LOCI, who you were a General Motors engineer.
Yep.
Correct. So when you see this and you see sort of the government saying, well, from now on, you got to do what we say, you know, how does that sit with somebody like you?
Not very well. Not very well.
Even though they took bailouts and all kinds of incentives from the taxpayer.
Look, it's not solely an economic issue. It's not a business issue, in my opinion. I think it's much more than that. I think it's a culture issue, and I think as every corporation that's getting ready to fall or go into bankruptcy, they just say that they weren't innovative enough, they weren't nimble enough, right? Well, it's not just them. It's too expensive to be innovative. It's way too difficult, and it's the thing that Americans are actually best at, not production.
We still have former CEO of Chrysler, Bob Nardelli, with us, and former General Motors engineer and CEO of LOCI, John Wise. Bob Nardelli.
Yes.
What did you make of what she said?
Well, listen, I give Mary a lot of credit. She's breaking with the tradition of the auto leaders hanging on too long, hoping that the industry comes back. Mary is trying to avoid...
What do you mean an industry come back? She has record profits, and I get that you're supposed to make tough decisions during boom times, during profitable times, not when the times are bad.
And if you look ahead, she's trying to avoid 2007 and 8. She does not want another bailout. If you look at the market in the sedans, the 17,000 SAR, seasonally adjusted rate, is going to tip in 19 and probably more in 20.
Yeah, they weren't selling their Impalas. They had to shut that down.
And she's trying to get in front of it. She's trying to retool and go where customers want to buy versus where they used to buy.
What if I tell you I think she's going where the cheapest labor is found?
Well, that's a different subject. I think we are talking about the plant closings to make sure that she has the financial strength and the cash to be able to do retooling. Now, you can question the Mexico situation. As I said, why aren't we doing that in an existing plant? The issue here will be the closing date versus the retooling date of some of the plants.
She won't commit to retooling, Bob. Chrysler just announced that they will open a plant in Detroit to build a Jeep SUVs. What do you think, John? I mean, if they can do it.
Well, they can definitely do it. They can definitely focus on building anything, and any of these companies can build anything, right? Clearly, they can build anything like any of these products in any country, right? What they can't do is really come up with the right things to build. I think they're missing the market, they're missing the right products, and they're not being innovative or nimble enough. It's just that simple.
This is an easy decision for Mike Manley at Fiat Chrysler. 80% of the operating profits are from Jeep and the Ram 1500. So they definitely need capacity. Whether you need a new plant or you can use one of these idle plants is another question.
I understand.
It's a great PR move, too.
Yeah. Let's stand by for a minute and go to Edward Lawrence, who was right there during that news conference. Edward.
You know, it's interesting. What we did not hear was anything about her reconsidering. I did ask her that question, is whether she would reconsider doing these plants or closing these plants there. We did not hear any reconsideration. What the focus was on what's next for the workers. She highlighted those 3,000 people who are hourly workers who could possibly move within the company. Also, there are some 12,000 others who will be laid off as a result of all this. Again, 4 plants closing in the United States. Now, lawmakers, for their part, obviously wanted to see those production moved back to those plants that have been closed. They have not heard anything about that happening. They specifically talked about the Blazer. There was a plant in Mexico. They increased shifts in Mexico when that plant. They were asked why not bring the Blazer back to the United States. That was not something that they were going to do. But in this restructuring, Mary Barra believes that they are on the right course in order to keep GM a healthy company going forward. They're trying to make sure that it's good for investors, also for the folks who have pensions, is what she is saying. So again, she's not backing off her position that this is the course to go. Lawmakers obviously very concerned about the loss of votes they might see, but also the loss of jobs and concern for those workers.
Bob, was it coincidence or timed that Chrysler sticks a needle right into General Motors by hitting the tape with the headline that, oh, we're opening a plant in Detroit, just as Mary Barra says, well, we have to do what's right for the company?
Yeah. Mike Manley's a pretty brilliant leader, isn't he? And I think the timing, you know, you could question the timing, but I can guarantee you that the demand for Jeep is over the top. What they've done there in repositioning the Jeep, retooling it, innovation, new features, aspirational desires for the consumer. It's rated the best SUV out there today.
Oh, listen.
I know you're a Jeep lover.
Love the Jeep. I love the Jeep.
Thank
as
you.
soon as it gets more fuel efficient, I'm back in a great one. Thank you so much. Bob Nardelli, former CEO of Chrysler, and John Wise of LOCI, former engineer at General Motors. We appreciate it. Come back again. We want to hear more about your innovation. Thank you so much.